Chris, officials with LRPD say they are running out of possible leads in solving McChristian's death, and now they say they need your help. Officials with the Little Rock police say shortly after 2 a.m. on August 24th, the body of Larry McChristian was found near the intersection of West 22nd Street and South Gaines Street. Police are now turning to the public for help in finding McChristian's killer. And thanks to the community, a $10,000 reward is now being offered to anyone with information leading to an arrest and conviction.
The thing that's so scary is that it seems to be so random. And there doesn't seem to be any relationship to normal activity on this street.
Officials with the Little Rock police tell me there have been 45 homicides in the city this year, and 21 of those cases are still unsolved.
On August 24, 2020, a little after 2 a.m., a 911 call comes into Little Rock, Arkansas 911 Center. When police responded to the intersection of West 22nd and South Gaines Street, they found Larry McChristian with trauma to his body and immediately called for an ambulance. Police scoured the area and obtained surveillance footage from some neighbors. When police arrived on the scene, McChristian was lying on the grass on the 2200 block of South Gaines Street. McChristian had several puncture wounds to his body and neck. Medical personnel pronounced him dead at the scene. He had been reported missing by UAMS 2 days earlier. His whereabouts during those 2 days are unknown. Just over a month later, on November 4th, 2020, police released the footage to the public as part of an appeal for assistance in solving the case. LRPD spokesperson Eric Barnes stated, "After reviewing the case, a lot of the facts in the case, we've felt like this is the appropriate time to reach out to the public and ask for help. And we're hopeful that we can come up with some tips. Try to bring this to the next level in the investigation." This is the footage police released to the public. This is the suspect walking away from the crime and then returning. This is the suspect approaching the crime scene. Here's the first video one more time. The suspect walks away. He stops and looks back like he heard something. He returns to finish what he started. And then he leaves and presumably continues his night. His body was discovered by a man passing through the neighborhood. Matilda Buchanan, a resident of the neighborhood, commented, "The thing that's so scary is that it seems to be so random and there doesn't seem to be any relationship to normal activity on this street." Over a month before police released this surveillance footage, another man was found stabbed on a porch. We will get to all of that and more right after my overly obnoxious trigger warning. Roll the intro. Which means they didn't show the surveillance footage from McChristian's murder to the people they questioned about this murder. On September 23, 2020, around 6 a.m., a friend went to visit with Jeff Welch. When they arrived around 3 a.m., he was deceased on the front porch and they called the police. Police got to the scene quickly. It was only 2 blocks from their police station. Initially, police reported that a homicide occurred. Then police stated it was a suspicious death. After the autopsy revealed several puncture wounds to Welch's neck, they upgraded it to a homicide 2 days later. Welch lived at 4218 West 12th Street, which is a vacant lot today. Only remnants of the house are still visible. When police arrived, 62-year-old Welch was lying on the front porch, apparently deceased from his stab wounds. Even though the crimes both occurred in the early morning hours, seemed to be randomly selected victims, both victims were elderly men, both were stabbed to death, and the killer apparently killed and left rapidly, and both murders happened in the same part of town, police did not connect these two murders. Which means that they didn't show surveillance footage from McChristian's murder to people they questioned about this murder. This undoubtedly hampered the investigation of both murders. Initially, police investigated the death as suspicious. Suspicious like, how did he get a bunch of stab wounds in his neck when there's no knife near the body? The case was elevated to a homicide after medical examiners classified the death as such. While McChristian's time of death was determined to be around 1 a.m., Welch's was determined to be around 2 a.m. It would take 6 months, 2 more attacks, and 1 more death for these murders to be linked. One of those attacks left a witness. Police reported that the man should be considered armed and dangerous. On April 11, 2021, a 43-year-old Deborah Walker was walking on Pulaski Street in the early morning when a stranger approached her, pulled a knife, and repeatedly stabbed her in the neck. At approximately 3:30 a.m., police responded to a reported stabbing on Pulaski Street. Walker was discovered and rushed to the hospital in time to save her life. UAMS staff who worked on Walker reported that she had 15 stab wounds. Walker reported that her attacker was a black man, approximately 6 feet tall and with a slender build. Police reported that the man should be considered armed and dangerous. You think, police? You think that a dude who just randomly walks up to people and stabs them to death without provocation should be considered armed and dangerous? Well, that's some really great police work you got going on there, police. Walker is the only known survivor of the Little Rock slasher. He would not be given his name or called a serial killer until he took his 4th victim's life the following day. This is the last confirmed kill of the slasher. Let's talk about Marlon Franklin. Residents in the area reported that they would be securing their homes and staying inside at night as a result of the attacks. The unhoused 40-year-old Marlon Franklin was found stabbed to death in the vacant lot behind these shrubs on April 12, 2021, around 6:30 a.m. It took police 2 days to identify Franklin. This attack happening just 1 day after the attack on Walker could indicate that her survival left the killer feeling unfulfilled, or it could indicate a significant increase in attack rates. Franklin was pronounced dead at the scene by medical personnel. In response to his 4th attack, police offered a $20,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of a suspect. Police also finally linked the 4 crimes based on similarities between them. Police believe the 4 attacks were committed by the same man because they share several similarities. First, they all happened in the Midtown area. All 4 attacks happened within a 3-mile area. Second, all 4 attacks happened between 1 and 4 a.m. Third, all 4 attacks were random and against people who just happened to be there. And fourth, all 4 attacks used a knife, while a gun is a more common weapon in murders. Residents in the area reported that they would be securing their homes and staying inside at night as a result of the attacks. One local resident, Audrita Williams, stated about her son, "I tell him, you have to watch where you go. I always tell him you have to watch yourself and always let me know where you're going. I'm not being nosy, I'm being a parent." Vice Mayor Lance Hines expressed concern about an overtaxed police force. "We are 40-odd patrol officers down and we're having a manhunt. It's kind of hard to get all hands on deck." The FBI even got involved and worked up a profile of the killer, but I can't find it online. Let's take a closer look at the investigation. A self-proclaimed real-life superhero named Shadow Vision wrote on his Facebook about how he has been hunting the murderer as well. On April 29, 2021, LRPD released a safety alert. Let's give it a watch.
Hello, I'm Keith Humphrey, Police Chief of the Little Rock Police Department. Part of my duties are to work to acquire and maintain a consistent level of safety in our community. To date, there have been 22 homicides in 2021. In early April of 2021, our communications department received a call of a cutting in progress. We responded. The victim in this case lived and spoke with detectives about the experience. Days later, we investigated a homicide where a lifeless body was found on Wright Avenue. Detectives took information from those two cases and compared them to two homicides from 6 months ago and noted similarities in all 4 cases. It was determined then that these incidents could possibly be connected based off the evidence in each case. The common suspect in these incidents is possibly an adult male, slender build. In the incident with the survivor, the suspect was described as a black male. I have put additional uniformed and plainclothes officers in the area and increased patrols. We have no evidence that these incidents are connected with another part of the state, despite claims on social media. Let me be clear. We will do everything possible to arrest this suspect and protect our city. If you provide information that leads to the arrest and conviction of this suspect, you could be eligible for a reward up to $20,000. Thank you.
So they finally connected the cases, but where was the perp for those 6 months of inactivity? Was he in jail on another charge? Was it too cold to hunt? Where was he? Also, did they notice that the victims in the second 2 stabbings are 20 years younger than those in the first 2, and one of them is female? Those are huge differences in a serial killer case. Do the police have some other reason to link the cases that they're not releasing? According to an article on the Oxygen website, the police have gotten some unwanted help in solving these crimes too. A self-proclaimed real-life superhero known only as Shadow Vision wrote about how he was hunting the murderer on his Facebook page. Shadow Vision claims a history of exterminating serial killers that dates back to the 1990s when he took out one in North Carolina and one in Arkansas. Shadow Vision claims to be from Belfast, having moved to Little Rock because the city was losing hope and he intended to restore that hope. By July of 2021, Shadow Vision was claiming that he knew the killer's name. Shadow Vision was brought to public attention by a Little Rock TikToker who commented, "I can't with this stupid city." The Little Rock slasher is still at large and likely still operating somewhere. Let's wrap this video up, shall we? We've been looking at unsolved serial killers on this channel for a while now. We started with the Mad Butcher of Kingsbury Run, who hid among the vagabonds and vagrants during the Great Depression. And we moved through the 40s, 50s, and the 60s, with Texarkana Moonlight Murders, the Bouncing Ball Murders, and over to the UK for Jack the Stripper. 3 cases, 3 sketches of assailants for the police to use, and 3 unsolved murders. In the 1970s, we looked at our first child predator with the Alphabet Killer. I still don't know how he got away. The 1980s and 90s brought us the Connecticut River Valley Killer and the I-70 Killer. 2 killers who targeted young women in different places at different times for different reasons, but both of whom have evaded capture. In the 2000s, we met the Atlantic City Strangler who attacked sex workers. The 2010s brought us the West Mesa Bone Collector, another sex worker killer, but this one wasn't discovered till years after the crimes actually happened. Finally, the Little Rock Slasher from the 2020s. We've looked at a full century of unsolved serial killer cases. We've seen police ineptitude like when Ness burnt down the Hooverville just so that the killer couldn't live there anymore. We've seen numerous victims who were vulnerable for one reason or another, like the elderly victims of the Bouncing Ball Slayer in the 1950s, and the children of the Alphabet Killer in the 70s. And all these cases have a couple things in common. First, every victim in every one of these cases was marginalized in some way: sex workers, drug addicts, children, the elderly. Well, except for the I-70 Killer, and he just breaks all the rules, so whatever. Second, they pretty much all made mistakes that should have gotten them caught. Leaving witnesses alive, getting caught on camera, using incredibly rare guns. We've seen pretty much every mistake you can possibly make be made by these men, and yet they went uncaught. Third, it could be out there still today. Well, probably not the ones before the 1960s, but you know what I'm saying. I hope you've enjoyed this dark history lesson. I'll let you make up your own minds what all this means. But go ahead and lock your doors. It'll be easier to get the insurance to pay out that way. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share the video. As always, super thanks and channel memberships are super cool. And now, I got a jam, so tag, you're ready.